Welcome to Project Tornado Live 2026. We're going to start our program right now. And the first thing I want to say is welcome. I also want to say that this would not be possible without our senior meteorologist, Mark Skirdo. Mark started this program almost 40 years ago. He came to different classrooms. He went to different schools off and on throughout the month of April, every year that he was chief since he started this program. And he talked to students like you because he believes that kids are the way to get to their parents. Because if you learn how to be safe during severe weather, you can teach your siblings and you can teach your parents how to be safe during severe weather as well. And once again, because Mark started this program, because this is his program, it wouldn't be Project Tornado without Mark Skirdo. So of course, he wanted to say a few words before we really got started.
Hey there, everyone. I'm meteorologist Mark Skirdo. Now, you know, we started Project Tornado nearly 40 years ago because we knew how important it was to make sure that you were safe and you got all this information when severe weather showed up. Now, these storms can be scary and dangerous, but nothing helps keep you safer than information. And I'm so proud that we have been able to do this as long as we have. In fact, we have been doing this so long that I'll bet some of your teachers, your moms and dads and aunts and uncles saw this presentation when they were kids. And I just couldn't be happier that they are sharing it with us here today. So make sure that you're paying attention. They have a lot of information and things for you to learn here today. And when they're done, we're counting on you to take this information home to your families and review it with them. Make a severe weather plan. Make sure that you know where that small windowless interior room is in your home, and you be the one to help everyone stay safe when the weather gets scary. Thanks again for joining us here. And without further ado, here's Project Tornado Live.
All right, we're ready to get started. I missed Miss Kennedy's class from Rusk, so hello, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully, that video, it's one of those things where some people get really excited when they see all the tornadoes. They think it's really fascinating and exciting. I'm one of those people, but I know there's a lot of you out there that you see that video and your heart almost stops because it's terrifying. And I will say that I am one that has been lucky enough that my own home has never been affected by a tornado, but if yours has, that might be very well why you have anxiety. And unfortunately, we can't tell you exactly where a tornado is going to form, but we can tell you when the storms are strong enough to form one. So hopefully we can give you as much information as possible to make you feel safe, even when the weather isn't so safe. So we're going to talk a lot about severe weather and different types of weather, but I wanted to talk mostly about the fact that weather, as much as it can be fascinating, can be very dangerous. And we all know that people die every year from weather. Behind me, you can see this chart. This is from 2024. This is weather fatalities by type of weather. And I think you'd be really surprised that big bar right in the middle, 529 fatalities in 2024. Would you be surprised when I told you those aren't tornado fatalities? That's heat. Heat is actually the #1 weather killer every single year. And we do programs like this, like Project Tornado, to tell you how to stay safe during severe weather. But sometimes we forget that weather can be dangerous even when we don't have storms outside. But here in East Texas, we're no stranger to the heat because we know how hot it can get. We hit triple digits almost every single year. And so we know we just crank up the AC and just kind of squint when the electric bill comes in the mail the next month. But as far as what we can do, just make sure that you stay hydrated and things like that. But once again, heat is the #1 weather-related killer. Now, do you know the #2 weather-related killer? Well, that's actually not tornadoes either. It's flooding. So check this out. The one in the middle, that's the highest bar, that's heat. And then on the far left side, that's actually flooding. So let's talk a little bit about flooding and why it is such a dangerous type of weather. Because a lot of people, when I say severe weather, they immediately think winds, hail, and tornadoes. But flooding is actually severe weather as well. Now, there are a lot of things that go into flooding, but the #1 thing that you have to remember is that you never, ever drive a car through flood waters. You just never know how deep it is or what's underneath those flood waters. I think you might be surprised that, did you know, it takes as little as 6 inches of water to knock you off your feet if it's moving fast enough. So think of a ruler, just half the size of a 12-inch ruler, 6 inches of water. If you're standing outside and that water hits you, even though it's just hitting at your ankles or maybe around your calves, if it's moving fast enough, it's enough to knock you over with just 6 inches of water. And then 12 to 18 inches of water, I don't care how big your car is or how big your truck is, 12 to 18 inches of fast-moving water can take any vehicle off the road. And that's why it is so important. We say turn around, don't drown, because it's just so much better to be a little late where you're going, turn around, find a different route, than to actually drive through flooded waters, because that's where a lot of our fatalities happen, is because people drive through those waters thinking they can get across and they don't realize how fast the water is moving. It sweeps their car off the road, it fills their car with water before they can react, and sometimes that can cause the electrical system in your car to mess up, which means you can't roll down the window. The force of the water means you can't open the door. It's a really bad situation. So it's just much better, even if the water isn't that deep, let's just play it safe. Turn around, go a different direction. So remember that phrase, turn around, don't drown. So the other thing is you just don't know how deep the water is. Now I want to show you this picture here. This is actually from a friend of mine. He is a storm chaser in Oklahoma. He works for a television station in Oklahoma City. I've known him for many years. Val Castor and his wife chase storms all over the state of Oklahoma. This was in Weatherford, Oklahoma, and he came up on this flooded roadway. Now, he got out and took a picture, but then, of course, he turned around and went and found another way to get across, because you can see how much water is across the road. But notice how murky the water is. That red dirt in Oklahoma, man, that water is just red, full of dirt. You can't see anything. Well, guess what happened? When Val came back a few hours later after the water receded, this is what he saw. Good thing he didn't drive through it, right? That wasn't just a few inches of water on the road. That had completely washed out the road underneath the floodwaters. And we're talking about a 6 to 10 foot hole that his truck would have gone in if he had tried to drive across those floodwaters. And that's why I tell you, not only can the water move your car or truck off the road, but if the water's deep enough, you just don't know what's underneath it. There could be nothing underneath it, and that would be even worse if you had tried to drive through it. So once again, you just never know. You also never know what's in the floodwaters. So we're in East Texas, right? We've got a lot of rural communities. We're no strangers to creepy crawlies, as I like to call them. So guess what? You don't know what's under the water. You also don't know what's in the water. So not only do you not want to drive through any flooded roadways, but you also don't want to play in any flood water either, because yeah, this guy, he could be in that flood water and he camouflages pretty well as well. So if you're in the floodwater, you may not see him until it's too late. So there could be snakes in the water. You just never know what's in the water. Also, check this out. This may look like dirt on the water, but if you look really closely, in fact, let me show you this other picture right here. Look really closely at this picture. Those are fire ants. You see, fire ants are just like us. They're trying to survive in the floodwaters. So what they do is they crawl on top of, say, a stick or a leaf, and then they start crawling on top of each other. So that is a huge pile of fire ants. Have you ever been bit by fire ants? Have you ever walked through your yard and actually stepped in a fire ant pile? I have, and it's not fun. Can you imagine if you were playing in the floodwater or walking through the floodwater, you didn't see this, and you walked right into it? Think about how many ants that is that are going to immediately start stinging you. So once again, we don't drive through flooded roadways, and we don't play in floodwaters because we don't know how deep it is, we don't know how fast the water is moving, and we just don't know exactly what's in the floodwaters as well. So let's talk more about severe thunderstorms. We talked about flooding, which is the #2 weather-related killer. Hopefully now you know we avoid floodwaters at all costs, right? We don't drive through them, we don't play in them, we just avoid them until they recede. So that's how you stay safe during flooding. But then we have severe thunderstorms, which we may even have in the forecast a little bit later this week. All of these pictures behind me were taken by meteorologist Katie Vossler. They're beautiful. Lightning is one of my favorite weather phenomena. It's just something that has always fascinated me. But did you know that lightning actually kills more than 20 people in the United States every single year? And that's so sad to me because it is so easy to be safe when it comes to lightning. So we said, turn around, don't drown when it comes to floodwaters, right? We also say, when thunder roars, go indoors. It's as easy as that. If you hear thunder, if you see lightning, go inside. And that's going to protect you from being struck by lightning. So keep that in mind no matter where you are, not just if you're out playing in the yard, but guess what? We're heading into summer, right? We're all going to be in the pool. Yeah, if you hear thunder, if you see lightning, you got to get out of the pool as well, because just like we talk about how electricity is going to kind of be sent toward water, that's going to happen in the pool as well. So you got to get out of the pool if it's thundering, even if you don't see the lightning or you don't hear the thunder. If you hear one, you see the other, you got to get out of the pool and make sure that you stay out of the pool until you don't hear anything for 30 minutes. Do you play sports? You know the lightning delays, they all have to be at least 30 minutes because that's the safe place. If you don't hear any thunder or see any lightning for 30 minutes, then likely the storm is far enough from you that you will be safe. Now, lightning can strike up to 10 miles away from a thunderstorm. So you got to make sure that thunderstorm is far away from you before you come back outside or get back in the pool or something like that. So the other thing that a lot of people talk about is how you can figure out if the lightning is coming towards you, going away from you, how far it is from you. Have you heard about counting after the lightning strike? If you see a lightning strike and you count very slowly and then divide by 5, that will tell you a rough idea of how many miles away the thunderstorm is. So if you see a lightning strike and you count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, let's make the math easy, right? Then you divide by 5, that's 1, right? So that means that that thunderstorm is about a mile away from you. Now, it's not exact, but it's pretty good. So then if you hear it, if you see the lightning again, and this time you count to 10 before you hear the thunder, well, now we divide by 5, and now the thunderstorm is 2 miles away from you. So what does that tell you? If it was a mile away a few minutes ago, and now it's 2 miles away, then it must be moving away from you. So once again, you got to stay inside until that lightning has been gone, or you don't hear any thunder for at least 30 minutes. Now, one of the things that really scares people, I know, is when the lightning is very intense. Now, this can tell us a lot about a thunderstorm. When there's a lot of lightning with a thunderstorm, that tells us that the thunderstorm is quite strong. Now, if we start to see the lightning decreasing with the thunderstorm, that can also be an indication that the thunderstorm might be weakening because it's not quite as electrified as it was before. However, when it comes right down to whether or not a thunderstorm is severe or not, lightning actually has nothing to do with it. Did you know that? Because by definition, a thunderstorm has thunder. So that means every single storm is going to have lightning and thunder. And if we used that as an indication to warn of severe weather, well, we'd be warning for every single thunderstorm. So if lightning doesn't tell us whether or not a thunderstorm is severe, what does tell us when a thunderstorm is severe? Well, here is our chief meteorologist at KTRE, Brad Lozak, with the answer to that.
Most of the damage reports caused by weather in East Texas each year come from severe thunderstorms. These thunderstorms become severe by producing large destructive hail, damaging winds, and even tornadoes. You may not be aware of this, but there are certain criteria that have to be met in order for the National Weather Service to issue a severe thunderstorm warning for areas downstream that could be in the path of harm's way. So what exactly makes a storm severe? Any thunderstorm complex that is capable of producing wind gusts greater than 58 miles per hour and/or hail that is at least 1 inch in diameter or larger, which is the size of quarters, will prompt the issuance of a severe thunderstorm warning. But in some cases, both high winds and hail are possible within the same storm. Tornadoes also make up a severe storm, but they are almost their own separate category, since any storm that rotates are capable of producing tornadoes gets put under a tornado warning. Not all severe thunderstorms are created equal. So in order to do this, they revamped the structure of categorizing severe thunderstorms by placing tags on the individual warnings, since some storms are more capable of producing more damage than others. So here is how the new tag warning system works. If Doppler radar or storm spotters observe winds 58 miles per hour or greater and hail that is 1 inch in diameter or the size of quarters, then we get a base severe thunderstorm warning. If a severe storm is capable of producing 70 mile per hour winds and hail up to the size of golf balls, which is 1 3/4 inches in diameter, then a considerable tag gets issued on that particular warning. Finally, if a severe storm shows signs of producing 80 mile per hour winds or greater and baseball size hail or larger, which is 2 3/4 inches in diameter, then it will get a destructive tag labeled on the warning. If a destructive tag is issued on a severe thunderstorm warning, our First Alert Weather Team will now do live cut-ins on air, streaming on all our digital platforms, and treating it very much like we would for a tornado warning. In many cases, thunderstorms that produce destructive hail and damaging winds to this magnitude can do just as much, if not more damage, than an EF1 tornado. For Project Tornado, I'm KTRA First Alert Chief Meteorologist Brad Lozak.
All right, so here's what Brad was talking about with those different categories of severe thunderstorms. So now we don't just have severe thunderstorms, we have severe thunderstorms, severer thunderstorms, and severest thunderstorms, kind of. So basically what we're saying is that a thunderstorm is severe, as Brad said, when winds are 58 miles per hour or greater, and when hail is quarter-sized or larger. However, when those winds start to get up to 70 or 80 miles per hour and the hail starts to grow up to, say, baseball-sized hail, that's going to do as much destruction as a tornado. In fact, it might even do more, and that's because a lot of times a tornado might be in just one small area, but straight-line winds can be across the entire thunderstorm, so it can cover a much larger area than a small tornado. And so that means many more people are going to see the damage than we would if we just saw a small tornado. And as Brad mentions, that's why we've kind of changed our thinking here at KTRA and KLTV about when we're going to break into coverage and let you know that you need to take cover. For many years, we only broke in for tornado warnings because that's when it was the most dangerous. But now that we're learning more and more about these severe thunderstorms, and now we can warn them with a tag that says this isn't just a severe thunderstorm, this is considerably severe, or this is destructive, then we can break into coverage, and just like with a tornado warning, we can tell you to take cover. Because when it comes to these severe thunderstorms that are considerable or destructive, once again, they can do as much, if not more damage than a small tornado. And so you would want to do the same thing with these severe thunderstorms as you would with a tornado. So speaking of tornadoes, well, it's Project Tornado. So let's get to tornadoes. We are going to continue to talk about safety when it comes to tornadoes because, as we just mentioned, severe thunderstorms can cause as much damage as tornadoes, but let's be honest, those of you that have weather anxiety, almost the #1 thing I get told is, I'm scared of tornadoes. I don't want you to be scared of them. I want you to learn about them and know what to do if there is one in your area. So when there's a tornado warning, do you know what to do? Do you know where to go? Our most active month in East Texas is usually April. In fact, that's kind of our most active month across much of Texas. In fact, Texas sees over 130 tornadoes every year. That's what we average. We've actually been pretty lucky so far this year in East Texas, and we haven't seen that many, but that could change because we're still in April. We still have May. We still have the beginning of June before our severe weather season kind of transitions into those hot, dry summer months. So the most important thing that you want to know when it comes to tornadoes is you need to know the difference between a watch and a warning. Now, a watch is issued first, and that's going to cover a big area. A warning is issued when you need to take cover. But I know sometimes it's really hard to remember the difference between a watch and a warning, especially in the heat of the moment when one of them is issued. So I think I found a really fun way for you to try to remember, or at least keep in mind, the difference between a watch and a warning. Watch this. I'm meteorologist Katie Vossler, and I know you usually see me at the weather wall, but today I'm in the kitchen because I think I have a unique way for you to remember the difference between a watch and a warning. Because you see, a weather forecast isn't unlike a recipe. We're looking at different ingredients in the air and in the atmosphere that would cause different forecasts on different days, especially days that thunderstorms may be in the forecast, and they could be strong to severe. So let's think of it like baking cupcakes. If you decided that you wanted to bake cupcakes this weekend, the first thing you'd probably do is head to the grocery store, get all the supplies you need, make sure you have all the ingredients. This is the point in the forecast where we would probably issue a first alert weather day. We're watching for it a few days away, but at this point, we're not expecting it right now. But we want you to know to expect it in the future. Then we get to the weekend. So now we're going to make our cupcakes. We have all the ingredients out. We're going to set out our measuring cups. We're going to bring out the flour, the sugar, the eggs, and all of that. And we're getting ready to make cupcakes, but we don't have the cupcakes yet. This is when the Storm Prediction Center would issue a watch. A cupcake watch means all the ingredients are laying out, but we don't have cupcakes yet. A thunderstorm watch means that all of the ingredients are in the atmosphere, but we don't have thunderstorms yet. Think of it this way. If you were headed over to your grandmother's house and you saw all the things out on the counter to make cupcakes, you're probably going to be watching for cupcakes later in the day. The same thing happens with the weather. If you know all of the ingredients are in the atmosphere for strong thunderstorms to develop, you need to be watching for that to happen later in the day, and that's why the Storm Prediction Center issues a watch. However, there's a lot that's going to happen between the time the watch is issued and the time we actually see a thunderstorm develop. A lot has to happen in the kitchen too. We have to add the ingredients, we have to make sure they're all measured out correctly, because if you get all the ingredients and they're not measured like they should be, then the cupcakes may not rise or they may not taste very good. Same thing happens in the weather wall. If it doesn't mix very well, then we may not get thunderstorms. But what happens during the day after that watch is issued is that we start to see those ingredients coming together, and well, we start to see the day heat up. So you got to heat up the oven for those cupcakes as well. Once you're ready for the cupcakes and you start to really get excited about it, that's when we're going to put it in the oven, and that's usually the heat of the day. Once we get to the end of the day and those thunderstorms start to develop and they become strong, now we have a warning. Just like with the cupcakes, when they come out of the oven and they're ready to eat, we now have a cupcake warning. And every once in a while, we'll see one of those cupcakes or one of those thunderstorms. They start to rotate, and that's when we get a tornado warning. So basically what you need to remember is when all of the ingredients are there, but they're not mixed together yet, you've got to watch. And when all the ingredients have been mixed together and the cupcakes are ready to eat, you've got a warning. So that's a fun way to remember it. Hopefully that kind of helps you think about it when it comes to our next chance of severe weather. So when there's a watch, that doesn't necessarily mean that there are maybe even any thunderstorms out there. There could be thunderstorms out there and they may not be severe yet, or there may not even be any thunderstorms. So many times we'll have a tornado watch that's issued by the Storm Prediction Center, and I'll have so many people that send me messages on social media and say, but it's bright and sunny outside. Like, I don't even see a cloud in the sky. Well, that just means that things are heating up and that things could develop later in the day. So just because a watch is issued doesn't even mean there are storms on radar yet. They may issue that watch before storms even develop. So when that watch is issued, the main thing that you want to know is you need to know that you're going to get alerts for the rest of the day, because now we're watching for the possibility of severe weather. So when that watch is issued, it could be as simple as you picking up your phone, opening up your First Alert weather app, and checking to make sure that your notifications are turned on. Because if they are, any warning that comes through, it's going to come right to your phone. Make sure that the volume is on your phone, so that if it's on silent, you don't miss a warning that might be issued. So when that watch is issued, I want you to make sure that you are starting to pay attention. You're listening for your phone to go off for a warning that might happen. Or maybe it's as simple as you're at home, you're cleaning your room or something like that, and you just turn on East Texas Now for the rest of the day and just have it playing in the background. Because if there is any severe weather, we're going to break into coverage and let you know. We're going to break into programming. So make sure the TV's on. Make sure that your alerts are turned on your phone. Or if you have a weather radio at home, those are amazing. If you happen to have weather anxiety, maybe try to get a weather radio, because you can actually tune it to your specific county, and then it will go off if there are any watches or warnings for your county. So if you have a weather radio at home, maybe go test it. Make sure it's working okay when that watch is issued, so that you know you're aware and you're ready for any alert that might come out in the next few hours while that watch is in place. And remember, a watch is going to cover a large area. It's going to cover several counties. It could include more than one state when it's issued, because this is going to be the big area that the Storm Prediction Center is watching for the possibility of severe thunderstorms developing. Now, a warning, well, a warning is usually only going to happen with one county or maybe just a couple of counties. This is going to be when a thunderstorm turns severe, or when they think a thunderstorm could produce a tornado. They will issue this warning, and then we will be able to track this thunderstorm and tell you exactly which communities it will be affecting in the next few minutes. And that's when you see us put those storm tracks on TV, and we're telling you where the storm is going, and we're telling you which communities need to take cover. So you know what a watch is. That's when we need to start paying attention. When a warning is issued, that's when you need to take action. So what do you do when a tornado warning is issued? Well, I want to talk about your home first, but we're going to talk about other places as well. When you're at home, you need to know where your safe room is. Now, let's look at this specific floor plan of this home, and you'll notice that we've kind of labeled all the rooms, the living room, the bedroom, the things like this. Now, if you've been watching KLTV anytime in the last 30-something years, then you've heard the phrase small windowless interior room. Mark coined that phrase, and it stuck with us for a reason, right? Because you want to be in a small room, a windowless room, an interior room. So remember that, small windowless interior room, or as we like to say in the newsroom, the SWIR. So here's what we're going to look for. That small windowless interior room. If you notice from here, that's going to be the closet. So here's a big thing. When you're trying to decide which room in your house that you need to go to, count the walls between you and the outside of your house. So if we're in this closet, count the walls. Here's 1, here's 2, and here's the outside of the house. If we were in the bedroom, we're only counting 1 wall between us and the outside of the house. So put as many walls between you and the outside of the house as possible. This is likely going to be a closet. Maybe in my house, it's the laundry room. It could be a pantry. It could be a bathroom. But you want to be as close to the middle of the house as possible, and you want to stay away from windows. Now, I know a lot of homes these days have somewhat of an open floor plan, where the living room and the kitchen and the dining room are all one big space, and so you don't always have a room right in the middle of your house. Well, think about hallways. If a hallway is the way to put as many walls between you and the outside of the house as possible, make sure you close all the doors that lead into the bedrooms along the hallway before you get into the hallway. Because once again, we want to stay away from windows, so closing that door means you'd stay away from the window in a bedroom, and keeping you enclosed in that hallway is going to be the best place for you to be. So that's kind of what you want to do. Avoid windows and try your best to be as close to the middle of the house as possible. Count those walls between you and the outside of the house. As many walls as you can. If you can get 3 or 4 walls, awesome. If you can only get 2, that's still your best bet, is to get there. The other thing you can do is you can bring pillows and blankets, because a big thing is you need to protect your head. Most of the injuries that come from tornadoes are when debris that's flying around in the tornado hits someone in the head. So make sure you're protecting your head, either by covering it with blankets or pillows, or guess what, kids, your bicycle helmets, your softball helmets, take that with you to that small windowless interior room and put your helmet on, because hey, that's meant to protect your head, right? If you have baby sisters and brothers at home, you know that infant car seat where your parents strap the baby in and then carry them to the car? That's meant to protect them in a car crash. It can protect them here as well. So if you have infants at home, strap them into their infant car seat and take them strapped into their car seat and all, to that interior room. When we have a first alert weather day, that is our way of telling you you need to be prepared for severe weather. So whenever we have a first alert weather day, I'll tell you what I do for my own family. Our laundry room is our safe room, and my kids know that. But one of the things I do before I head into work to warn you about severe weather is I make sure that my kids are prepared. I go ahead and put their helmets in the laundry room. I would go ahead and put that infant car seat in the laundry room. Just go ahead and have it in the room with you. The other thing that you can do is put your shoes in there, because here's a big thing. If a tornado were to hit your house, I hope it never does, but if it was, and you're trying to crawl out of the rubble of your house, you don't want to do that barefoot. So throw some shoes in that laundry room, that small windowless interior room, put your helmet in there, put the infant car seat in there. Anything that I'm telling you that you might need for protection, go ahead and put it in that room at the start of the day. That way, if a warning is issued, you don't have to think about what you need. You don't have to run around the house trying to get all of your supplies. They're already there. Just run to that interior room, close the door, and while you're there, strap on your helmet, put the baby in the car seat, cover yourself with blankets and pillows. Now, the other thing that I've had a lot of people ask about is when they go to that room, they want to make sure they still have information coming to them. They don't want to be in that room and not know what's going on. Or maybe they want to know when it's safe to come out of that room. Well, one of the best ways to do is to watch East Texas Now. You can watch that on any of our First Alert weather apps, the East Texas Now app, those things. Have that with you on your phone or your tablet and take that with you to that interior room as well. That way you can watch us and you can hear us say, hey, you're in the clear now. You can come out of that safe room because that storm has passed your area. The other thing that you need to know when it comes to watches and warnings is what county that you are a part of. Because guess what? Watches and warnings, they're all issued by counties. We talked about how watches are issued for several counties, but warnings are usually issued for 1 or 2 counties that are being directly affected by that thunderstorm. So first off, do you know what county you live in? Some places, like Bullard, it kind of straddles 2 counties. Just a part of Bullard is in Smith County, part of Bullard is in Cherokee County. Know which county you're a part of. Know where you are on this map. So myself, I grew up in Troup, and Troup also in Smith and Cherokee County. I was on the Cherokee side of Troup when I grew up. My home was in Cherokee County. And my grandfather used to tell me when I was younger and watching Mark Skirdo on TV to look for that county right in the middle of the map that kind of looks like a boot. And so that's what I always remembered growing up. Cherokee County kind of looks like a boot or sock. And so that's what I looked for on the county map. So I knew if those warnings were up here, they weren't affecting me. But if they were close to that boot, I needed to pay attention. And when that boot was lit up with a warning, that's when I knew I needed to take cover. So this county warning map is available to you anytime on our website or on our Project Tornado app. So if you have either one of those, you can always reference this. So maybe you don't quite remember how your county is shaped. Maybe your county isn't shaped like a boot, so it's not as easy to figure out where it is. You can reference this anytime. So when there's severe weather, if you're like, you know what, I don't remember exactly where my county is, pull up this county map on your Project Tornado app and you can reference it anytime to see where your county is, what counties are surrounding it, and how you can recognize it on the map. Because when there's a watch or a warning, this map is going to be in the corner of your screen so that you know exactly which counties are being affected. So you got to have a way to get watches and warnings. You got to know which county you have. And so maybe you don't have a way to do all of that. This is where I'm going to beg you to please download our First Alert Weather app and our Project Tornado app. There is so much information on both of these apps that's going to help you out. Now, our Project Tornado app is full of all of the information that I'm giving you today on Project Tornado Live. In fact, when we're done today, we're going to take the recording of this show and you're going to be able to see it on our Project Tornado app or on our website. So maybe you really enjoyed the show, I hope you do, and you want to share it with friends or family, maybe even friends and family outside of East Texas. You can do that with the Project Tornado app, and you can do that on our website as well. Or maybe you want to go back and reference that county map. That's on our Project Tornado app as well. There's also some fun activities for the kids on our Project Tornado app as well, and some fun information about all of our First Alert meteorologists. So there's some fun stuff on there. There's some educational stuff on there. Please download that app. And also, we're asking you Project Tornado questions every night at 6 o'clock and giving you the answer at 10. You can answer along with us in that Project Tornado app. We'll continue to do those Project Tornado questions throughout the rest of the month of April, and so you'll continue to learn more and more. So please download the Project Tornado app. The other app I want you to download, and by the way, these are all free. You don't have to pay for any of them. The First Alert Weather app, that's one you're going to want to download as well. You're going to have radar right at your fingertips with your First Alert Weather app. You'll be able to see future radar as well. And so you can watch where the storms are progressing, where they've moved from, where they might be moving to. But the biggest thing with the First Alert Weather app, this is going to be where if you turn on your notifications, you are going to get watches and warnings straight to your phone. In fact, when the National Weather Service issues a warning, it goes to your phone just as quick as it comes to me in the Weather Center. So when I see a tornado warning, you will see it at the exact same time on your phone. Make sure those notifications are turned on. The other thing that you might want to do is you can actually set the location. You can either set the location to one spot, or my favorite thing is you can set the location to follow me. That means if you're like how I grew up in Troop, where I was constantly in between Smith and Cherokee County going back and forth from home to school, if you've got that app set to follow me, that means if you happen to be in Smith County, it's going to give you alerts for Smith County. But then if you drive home to Cherokee County, it's going to give you alerts for Cherokee County as well. So there's such a wealth of information. And the biggest thing is, what have I told you? When a watch or a warning is issued, you've got to get those alerts no matter where you are. Whether you're at home, whether you're at school, whether you're in the car, you want to get those alerts. And what do we all have with us? Our phone, right? So that's why you want to download those. Turn the notifications on so that no matter where you are going to get those alerts right to the palm of your hand. And once again, you get those alerts as fast as I do. So when I see there's a tornado warning, you're going to see it at the exact same time, and you're going to know to turn on the TV, turn on East Texas Now, and tune in to see where that storm is headed and if you're going to be affected where you are. So once again, make sure you download those Project Tornado apps, that First Alert Weather app. They're going to be your best friend. Now, here's something that I really want you to do. All of you teachers that have been out there and joining us and RSVP'd, and I got to say hi to your class, I want to give every single student watching a certificate, because now that we are almost finished with our broadcast, you are officially Project Tornado ambassadors. That means that I am entrusting you to make sure and share all of this information with your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your parents. I want you to go home and tell them everything you learned today, and I want you to be able to show your parents that you are a Project Tornado ambassador. So teachers, parents at home, here's what I want you to do. Shoot me an email to projecttornadolive@gray.tv. Hannah, I'm going to have you pull this up full screen so they can see that email address and my head isn't blocking it. Send an email. This is the same email you used to RSVP. Send an email. Tell us how many kids you had watching in your classroom, or maybe from your homeschool classroom at home, and we're going to send you a certificate. I've signed the certificate, your teacher is going to sign the certificate, and you're going to be able to take that home and show your parents that you are officially a Project Tornado Live ambassador, and that you get to teach them what to do during severe weather. So once again, teachers, parents at home, send us an email, tell us how many kids you had watching, and we would love to send you a copy of this certificate so that you can pass it out to all of the kids and they can take it home and have something to put up on their wall or put in their folder, just to know that they are officially a Project Tornado ambassador. Now, we have talked about so much stuff. Let me go through my notes and make sure I've talked about everything that I need to talk about. So I really want to kind of review, I think, now, so that everybody knows exactly what we talked about, sum it all up for you, where to go during a tornado warning, how to get those watches and warnings, what do we do if we're in the car, what do we do if we're in school? Well, we have all the answers for you. Watch this.
First Alert Project Tornado is sponsored by East Texas Professional Credit Union, Clean Cut Roofing, Office Barn, Upshur Rural Electric, Gas and Supply Company, Low Tractor, and Alco Air.
I was born and raised right here in East Texas, and there's no other place I'd rather live and raise my own family. But East Texas is no stranger to some dangerous weather.
East Texas is part of an area known as Tornado Alley. Most tornadoes that develop in Tornado Alley are considered weak, but even a weak tornado can do a lot of damage. That's why we all need to be prepared. Our senior meteorologist, Mark Skirdo, began presenting Project Tornado nearly 40 years ago. And KLTV continues the program every year because we believe that knowledge is everything when severe weather strikes.
If you know by heart exactly what to do when you see a severe weather warning issued in your area, you save valuable seconds, and those seconds save lives.
One of the top 10 deadliest tornadoes in Texas history hit Gerald, Texas back in 1997. The storm system produced nearly a dozen tornadoes, but this one grew into a monster.
Man, that tornado turned into a huge deal back there. The tornado touched down back there.
The devastation was just unbelievable. Homes were reduced to flat slabs, roads were scoured away, even cattle were thrown hundreds of yards from their homes. Those in the path of this twister who did survive took shelter in a small room in the interior of their home. Many times that one room, whether it's a bathroom or a closet, is often the only one left standing after a tornado moves through. The most recent tornado outbreak in the Lone Star State was right here in East Texas. In July of 2024, Hurricane Beryl made landfall along the Texas coastline and then moved through East Texas as a tropical storm. Beryl dropped over a dozen tornadoes in East Texas, with the largest being an EF2 that injured one person in Jasper. One of the most famous close-up videos of a tornado was shot by a news crew in Kansas many years ago. The crew and other motorists ran up into the small space underneath an overpass as the tornado passed directly overhead. The crew was lucky to survive because they made two terrible mistakes. First, never try to outrun a tornado.
Keep going, man, keep going. Faster. Watch faster. Watch faster.
And second, seek shelter in a ditch, not a highway overpass. The tornado's winds actually speed up as they are squeezed under an overpass, and that makes it an even more dangerous place to be.
So we've seen what tornadoes can do, but how are they formed? What has to come together to get that funnel to extend to the ground? In East Texas, thunderstorms are usually fueled by warm, moist air from the Gulf moving northward and encountering cooler, drier air flowing down from the plains and Rocky Mountains. Within these thunderstorms can be one more ingredient known as wind shear, where winds blow in varying directions, at different speeds, or at different heights. This can cause a storm to start spinning, and well, at that point, you know what can happen.
You could be anywhere when a tornado warning is issued, but let's start at home. It's been a warm, muggy spring day, and you start to hear the rumble of thunder in the distance. Your First Alert weather app goes off on your phone, and you see it's a tornado warning for your area. What do?
If you live in a brick house, the best advice is to find a room in the center of your home, like a closet or a bathroom. You'll want to stay away from any windows, and if you live in an open floor plan home, this could even be an interior hallway, a pantry, or a laundry room. Just remember, the most important thing is to protect your head. So grab the bike helmets for the kiddos or a pillow to cover your head in the event of flying debris within a storm.
Now, tornado safety in a vehicle is a tricky topic because it's not actually safe to be in a car or a truck. So there's a few things that you can actually do to improve your odds of getting through this situation, either unharmed or just out of the situation altogether. So let's start off with scenario number one, and that's, let's say you're out on a highway and traffic is actually pretty light in your location. Well, that means if you see that tornado off to your left or to your right, and it seems like it's coming in your direction, then just keep driving straight and then use that light traffic to actually get out of the way, get to a sturdy building where you can actually ride out the storm. But let's say traffic's a little heavier, or you're maybe in in, gridlock or bumper to bumper traffic. Well, and you start to get berated by very strong winds or even debris. At that point in time, it's actually safer for you to try to get out of traffic, park along the side of the road, keep your vehicle on, and keep your seatbelt on as well. The reason why you want your vehicle on is if you get rolled or if something impacts you, the car needs to stay on in some vehicles for the airbags to actually deploy. Now, also, you're going to want to lean over, cover your head, maybe with your hands, but maybe with a jacket if you've got that. That way, if the glass breaks or whatever, you're going to be able to kind of keep yourself safe from that. But there's actually a third option. Let's say that you're able to safely get off of the highway and park somewhere along the side of the road. At that point in time, turn your car off and then go to your lowest space, preferably some sort of ditch, and you're going to lay down in that ditch and cover your head with your hands to protect yourself from the debris. The reason why is that that wind is actually going to go over your body, but it's going to be a lot easier for it to get underneath your vehicle and then potentially roll or throw your car. So I know it sounds crazy, but actually the better option is to get out of your vehicle and lay down to keep yourself safe.
Did you know that your school is one of the safest places you can be during a tornado? That's because the state of Texas actually requires that schools have severe weather drills every year. It's an effort to teach everyone, from your principals to your teachers to you, the students, exactly what to do if there's a tornado nearby. Many parents worry and try to pick up students early from school when the weather is threatening, but that can cause panic, and we've already talked about not wanting to be in a car during a tornado warning. The schools are equipped to keep kids safe during all kinds of weather. So stay at school, stay safe, and as we've been telling you, don't forget to protect your head.
We know some people are scared of thunderstorms while others are fascinated by them. After all, the reason we became meteorologists is because of our own fascination with the weather. But please don't go outside and take pictures of the storms. While we'd love to see your pictures, above all, we want you to stay safe. And don't worry, we'll still get you the pictures of those thunderstorms with our very own storm tracker.
Whenever we're in continuous coverage for tornadoes as well as for severe thunderstorms, what you'll mostly see on air is us at the green screen with live Doppler radar, which is the most important tool in regards to showing you where those storms are going to be and where they could impact you. But we also like to see what's happening at the ground level, and that's where the First Alert Storm Tracker comes into play. Now, I've been chasing in the Storm Tracker since 2016, and since then, we've actually gotten a couple of really cool upgrades that I think you'll really like. Starting off with our full 360 camera on the top of the roof there, that's really handy, especially if we have any damage out and around the area or a tornado on the ground. That means it's probably too dangerous for me to get outside of the Storm Tracker. So we can broadcast that through what's very handy. It's our upgraded cradle point. Now, everything is being driven through the internet nowadays, and that can be kind of tricky, especially with how rural some places in East Texas can be. So now with twice the power, that becomes a much more reliable system for us to get that important imagery out, not only to you, but also to the First Alert Weather Center.
We hope this video has given you information that you and your family can use during weather emergencies. We want each of you to talk to your family about what you've learned today. Go home and make a plan with your parents, your brothers, and your sisters so that you will all be prepared before severe weather strikes.
Even with all of our weather technology and the very best team of meteorologists, we can't prevent tornadoes from happening, but we can predict those storms ahead of time, and now you have the power to protect your family ahead of time too. Together, we're keeping East Texas safer than ever.
First Alert Project Tornado is sponsored by East Texas Professional Credit Union, Clean Cut Roofing, Office Barn, Upshur Rural Electric, Gas and Supply Company, Low Tractor, and Alco Air.
Okay, a lot of information in the last 45 minutes, but the main reason that we do Project Tornado Live is so you will stay safe during severe weather and during a tornado warning. So I really want to hit hard so that you know exactly where you need to be during a tornado warning. Now, we talked about the small windowless interior room. You saw meteorologist Emily Edwards show you being in a bathroom and staying there until the storm is gone. Then we talked about, what about when you're in a school? Well, you guys have tornado drills at your school. You know, you go to the hallways, you cover your head with your hands, and you stay there until the warning is gone. Then you saw meteorologist Cody Gottschalk tell you about what to do if you're in a vehicle. You get out of the vehicle because guess what? The vehicle can go airborne within that tornado. So actually getting out of the vehicle can be safer if you've got a ditch or a low-lying area to be in. But you heard I grew up in East Texas. I grew up in Cherokee County in Troop, and I grew up in a mobile home. And that comes with a little bit of different ideas of what you do during a tornado. So meteorologist Andrew Tate has a few more tips on if you live in a mobile home.
There was the tornado that touched down in Picton, and then it went up into Franklin County.
Data from the U.S. Census Bureau and Texas A&M University show around 6% of Americans live in mobile homes. But that number, it's even higher in the Lone Star State, where we're closer to 7.5%. Important, why? Because from 1995 to 2018, nearly 40% of all tornado fatalities in the United States occurred in mobile homes. That is 40% of deaths in a form of housing that makes up only 6% of residences in the U.S. The National Weather Service says it doesn't take a strong or violent tornado to do damage.
You got to remember that only an EF1 tornado can completely lift a mobile home, throw it, and destroy it.
But it's not just tornadoes that can lead to damage and fatalities in mobile homes and RVs. In March of 2018, strong wind downed trees at Brushy Creek Campground at Lake of the Pines. One of those trees falling and splitting this RV in half. So you live in a mobile home or an RV. What do? Well, the National Weather Service has created an easy 3-step guide. Step 1, it's easy enough you can do it today.
You need to identify a family or friend's place, a community building, maybe it's a gas station or a library or something that's more sturdy than a mobile home would be.
Step 2, is that location available when you need it?
That day before, you want to verify that that safe place to go is still available for you. And then step 3, and that would be the day of the event, is when the tornado watch is issued for the area, then taking action. Because if you wait till storms hit or you wait till tornado warnings are issued, it might not be enough time to get to a safe place.
Again, these steps are for if you live in a mobile home or an RV and don't have a safe shelter on the property, or you don't live in a stick-built home. One final thing, let's say a warning is issued before you've been able to leave for a safer location. The advice from the National Weather Service is to get into a ditch near your home, protect your head, or get into your vehicle and turn it on so the airbags can deploy if it is moved by the storm.
The biggest thing is we want everybody to remember that a mobile home is not a safe place to be when tornadoes threaten.
Andrew Tate, KLTV 7 News.
All right, so I've stood up here and talked for 50 minutes now, maybe even a little bit longer if you joined us before 9 o'clock. I want to know what you guys are curious about and what questions you have. So we went out to some of the area schools and we got some kids to ask us some questions. So Hannah, give me a question.
How big can a tornado get?
How big can a tornado get? What a great question. It actually really depends. Some tornadoes are very small and some tornadoes are very big, but it really depends on how fast the wind speeds are as to how strong the tornado is, because even a big tornado may not be very strong if the wind speeds are slow enough. So let's talk a little bit about the enhanced Fujita scale. Now, the Fujita scale came out in the 70s when a man named Ted Fujita decided to rate tornadoes based on the destruction they have. So here's a look. Let me click through to this graphic. And the enhanced Fujita scale came out in the 2000s because scientists knew that construction had gotten better since the 70s. So they kind of just redid the Fujita scale, and that's why we have the EF scale, the enhanced Fujita scale. So let's kind of go through it a little bit on the quick side, but I just want you to let you know most tornadoes in East Texas are usually EF0 or EF1, so they're kind of on the weaker side. Now, an EF0 tornado is going to be winds up to 86 miles per hour, and it usually causes pretty minor damage, though it can be very scary. Once you get to an EF1, it's moderate damage with 110 mile per hour winds. EF2s start to get a little bit dicey. That's when winds get up to 135 miles per hour. And this is when we can see power outages and things. Cars can be flipped over. And then we get to those really strong tornadoes. An EF3 has winds of 165 miles per hour, and it's going to do severe damage if it hits anything in its path. And hopefully, we never see one of these in East Texas, but we also have an EF4 and even an EF5. Now, back in the 90s, I know some of you kids don't even remember that, but the strongest wind speed on Earth was recorded in an F5 tornado. This was before the enhanced Fujita scale. This was in Moore, Oklahoma, and those winds were over 300 miles per hour. So this is almost going to be total destruction if an EF5 were to hit your home. Hopefully that never happens. But now that you've been in Project Tornado, you know what to do if it did happen, right? Okay, so let's get to another question. Hannah, what do we have?
What is the maximum wind speed of a tornado?
So as we just talked about, the maximum wind speed ever recorded on the face of the earth was in an F5 tornado in Moore, Oklahoma. This was back in 1999, and it was like 321 miles per hour was recorded within that tornado. So an EF5 can get up to or over 200 miles per hour, and that storm was over a mile wide. The one that was most in modern history that you may have heard about was in 2011. There was a tornado that hit Joplin, Missouri, and this one just caused so much damage. It was rated an EF5. Winds were over 200 miles per hour. It was at least a mile wide when it went through the center of Joplin, and it was on the ground for 22 miles. 150 people died in this tornado, and hopefully no more will die in tornadoes like this in the coming years, because now you know what to do to stay safe. What other questions?
How long does a tornado usually go for?
All right, so most tornadoes actually only last a few minutes. However, there are some for the record books, including the tri-state tornado. Now, the tri-state tornado was a long, long time ago, even before I was born. This was back in March of 1925, and it is still the longest and deadliest tornado in the United States history. It crossed 3 states. It covered 219 miles. It was on the ground for 3.5 hours. Almost 700 people died in this tornado, and over 2,000 were injured because it was on the ground for so long and for such a great amount of time. Most tornadoes are not that long. That's just the one that went down in history. What other questions?
Can a tornado start in the ocean or lake and come out and go from a liquid to a solid?
So this is a question I get when I go to schools all the time. So a tornado over water is a waterspout. Now, there are 2 types of waterspouts. There is something called a tornadic waterspout. That is a waterspout that either starts on the ground as a tornado and moves over water, or it comes down from the cloud as a tornado and it just happens to be over water. That happened not too long ago here in East Texas when we saw a tornado in the Onalaska area move over Lake Livingston. Now, a fair weather waterspout is what we see most often out on the ocean. You may see them if you're visiting Galveston in the summer, or even more likely, you'll see them if you're in the Florida Keys. The most likely chance would be going in June. That's on my bucket list. So a waterspout forms in a little bit different way than a tornado, and those fair weather waterspouts usually don't do much damage. They don't usually last very long, and they're very, very weak, but they're very, very cool. All right, do we have another question?
How do space satellites predict the weather of tornadoes?
Okay, so satellites that orbit the Earth take pictures of the clouds on the surface of the Earth. They don't actually predict the weather, but they help us predict the weather. This is a satellite image. You see the white moving over parts of New Mexico and into Texas. This is a satellite image for right now. We're seeing the clouds, and we take pictures of the clouds. We can also see, let's see if I have another one in here. This is called a visible satellite. Now, with the visible satellite, can you see the bumps in the clouds? That's something called towering Q. And when we're looking for severe weather, that's what we're looking for. If we look at a visible satellite, these pictures that are taken by the satellites that orbit the Earth, and we see these little bumps, that shows us that the air is rising very quickly under those clouds, and we're starting to see thunderstorms develop. So by looking at satellites, we can see thunderstorms right as they start to develop before they become strong to severe. And that's usually when the Storm Prediction Center then issues that watch that includes a bunch of counties across East Texas or across Oklahoma. They see those towering Q, they see those developing thunderstorms, and they know the ingredients are there for severe weather, so they issue the watch so that now you'll be watching for severe weather as well. Thank you so much for all of your questions. If you have any other questions, please feel free to email me. I'd love to email you back and answer any questions that your kids have in your class. I really hope you learned something today, and if you did, maybe share this program with friends and family. We're going to have it on our website, and it's going to live there for eternity if you want to share it. It's being recorded right now, and hopefully you'll be able to share it in the next coming days. And of course, don't forget to download that First Alert Weather app so that you can get notifications on your phone of any watches and warnings that we may see here in East Texas. And download the Project Tornado app. There are so many fun things to learn on that app. If you're a weather enthusiast like I was when I was your age, you can learn so much on the Project Tornado app, including how many tornadoes have hit your specific county in the last several years and which county has seen the most tornadoes. I also hope you'll join us tonight at 6 and 10 for our Project Tornado question of the day. And if you've got that Project Tornado app downloaded, you can answer along with everyone else, and I'll let you know how you did with the answer that comes up tonight at 10 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us on my second year of Project Tornado Live. I hope you'll join us again next year as well. And teachers, go ahead and send in that email so that we can send all of your students a certificate that shows they are a Project Tornado Live ambassador. Thanks, guys.